I'm Jamz Supernova, and this is Between the Lines. It is a podcast where I get to explore the lyrics and the lines behind my favourite songs with the artists themselves. So I'd like to welcome on this episode, we have got Bruce, an amazing producer, artist, vocalist, singer, all of the things. I would say that you're like, for me, a complete artist. In a way, like, no, but you know what it is? Like, I've been like, I was listening to another podcast and they said that when you interview people and you're preparing, they become like little lodgers in your head. So I've been living in the world of Bruce.
Wow, that's
and like,
so nice.
Yeah, like looking
Thank
at
you.
like the imagery that you've kind of got around the project, around like the Bruce as a project, like kind of like you on stage. It's like this whole world, and that for me is like a complete artist. You've made a world around yourself.
There's not much more I need to say now. It's been great. Thanks,
See you
Jamz.
later.
I really
done.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Really
Well,
sweet of you.
I knew you as a sort of more as a in that sort of like, I say like techno adjacent world, an alternative electronic producer.
Mm-hmm.
And with this album that's just came out, Not Ready for Love, this wasn't your first foray into using your voice, but this was kind of like I guess the moment you've been leading up to, right?
It didn't come about in any particular, with much intention, to be honest. Like, the earlier features of my voice in tracks, to be honest, were actually me to avoid having to pay for samples.
Yeah.
So I was sampling old records and finding myself finding a nice little vocal lick in the middle of a techno track. And it sat really well, and then sent it to the label, and they'd be like, yeah, really sick track, man. Where's that vocal from? And they're like, oh, just this. Like, oh yeah, it's owned by Island Records, bro. I don't know.
Yes. I'm that person. It's like, ooh, sample. Can't do that.
Yeah, literally.
Can we re-sing it?
Yeah, basically, so I did. Re-sung it, kind of added my own kind of flair to it, and then found myself going, this is actually quite fun. And then there was another situation where I was actually like I was doing karaoke before a festival, and these artists came up to me and they were like, why aren't you singing on your records? So it was like kind of different things coming together, which ended up just kind of like the kind of groundwork for then when I found myself going through a very tumultuous emotional time in lockdown and thinking, the clubs are closed. It's like, clubs are stupid. Why have I put all my... Like, you kind of, I don't know.
My whole life.
Yeah, my whole life is wasted. If it could be apocalypse tomorrow and I'd be eaten by the zombies immediately, like something like that. So it was, I kind of found myself finding to, just reapplying my resources. And it kind of came together like that, really.
Can we not gloss over the karaoke? Because I love karaoke, which I think is like a lot of the conversations we have around lyrics often, around sort of mental health. And I've always thought that karaoke is the antidote to, like, if you're going through some stuff, like you can go in a room and you can just sing, that you would come back out smiling.
Yeah, that's a good take. I rate that. I think I've always been quite scared of it, and I think other friends of mine who are like trained singers have found, and which is obviously like a precarious like point to be making. It's just like people who are trained singers to be then put in a spot.
People that can sing should do karaoke.
Well, no, but this is it. They should do, but then but like you step into that arena, it's a very different playing field. Like no longer are you there to sing the song really well. People don't care about that. They don't care if you sing the words. They want a performance. They want to see an underdog.
You need the hesitancy as well. You need the slight nervousness.
I don't know if I should do it. Yeah, I want to do this
me?
one. Yeah. Yes, which is I've learned the hard way other times. When I've like come up and sung Stevie Wonder like quite well, and everyone's like, we don't know the song, mate. So move along next time.
What song did you do?
Signed, Sealed, Delivered.
Yeah.
But it was bad choice.
Yeah.
But no, that is very true. I think people who, I know a lot of people that find they really get so much, and you can tell it's almost like a soulful, like spiritual response to the way the karaoke. And there's a sense of community in it as well. Everyone like kind of cheering someone along. You don't really get that from other stuff, do you?
No, and it's less lonely than being on stage and doing your own show. You do this karaoke. There's some quite accomplished artists around you enjoying it with you. Mount Kimby, can I drop that one? Okay, one of the Mount Kimby guys comes over. It's like,
if Kai and
you should
they're
sing.
gonna find out. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Yeah, he was like, you should sing. And then Alvin Noto came up to me, who's like this really distinguished like electronic artist, proper like Eastern German electronic artists, you know, all these Instagram are just black and white. And then like, and you think he's just like,
Techno.
yeah, very kind of techno, but it's all just like beeps and boops.
Okay.
It's the whole thing. I mean, it is sick, but like, it is literally beeps and boops. You know, he comes up to me and he's like, oh yes, you're Bruce. Yeah, and you know, I don't say this about very much, but you've got the funk. Which from a like 80-year-old white guy was like, not 80-year-old, 70-year-old white guy was like, wow, that was like, this is encouraging. I feel like I got to do it now.
I love that. So that's kind of like the sort of beginnings of it. We like to do like a little wine breaker. So now we're like warmed up, we're in.
Sure.
I like to gift my guests with some wine.
Oh my God.
That I feel like suits the song, suits the
Wow,
artist.
what a surprise.
So yeah, I love wine. I love drinking wine. I love listening to music. So yeah, I just thought you're quite a character, you know? And I thought that I'm just going to pick up a bottle that just looks like
If I saw
fun.
that on the shelves, I would have picked that.
Yeah,
as well.
I don't know
Thank
how
you
it tastes.
so much. Oh, I love the naked cork as well.
Yeah,
Oh.
probably very natty.
Right,
Looks
love
natty,
it.
cloudy as
love
hell.
it. Thank you so much. It's so
That's
sweet of
alright,
you.
yeah.
Thank you.
You have to do a reaction video and let me know what it's like.
Okay, we'll do. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
please do.
Thank you
Please do.
so
But it's got
much.
a gradient on there if you're not watching the video. It's got gradient. It's like ombre. Look, oh yeah. Yeah, good wine for a good song. Right, let's jump into it.
Love
So,
it.
from your album, Not Ready for Love, we are breaking down I'm His Ex. So, where were you when you wrote the song?
This is definitely, you chose the best song.
Yeah?
Like, this has got the best story, yeah.
Spill
It's
the tea.
yeah. It was September 2022. Yes, 2022. And I had just spent a festival with my ex-girlfriend. Unintentionally, of course. We were at Dimensions Festival and we'd spent a decent amount of time apart, the right amount of time apart apparently this time, to be able to see each other on the dance floor and then see each other and just be like, whoa, you've got that, like fair play. Like, but be cool about it. And then we just carried on to spend a few days together trying to be cool about it, trying to keep our distance.
And did you
then-
know each other was going to be at the festival?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
like
we-
mutuals and
But
stuff.
like, it had been enough time where we were kind of like, you know, she's probably seeing people, I'm probably seeing people. I feel like we probably moved on. It was very much a maybes, but it was still like, no, I can do this. Like, and it's post-lockdown as well, so everyone's gagging to party. So it was a really good festival, with the response of everyone just being like really up for it. But I just found myself, just being drawn to her like I hadn't been before, and which is kind of, you know, the rest of the album talks about that in various different ways and the struggles in which I wasn't in the right place, not ready for love. And yeah, she's got this newfound everything about her, and I'm just kind of trying my best to not lose my shit. And like, you know, we then part ways after a really quite lovely time. And I gave off some confusing signals. She was like seeing two guys at the time, so she was kind of like, "Yeah, get in line, mate." Like, you know,
Yeah.
You had your chance.
You like buses by this
Yeah,
point.
literally.
Well, they all turn up at once. Yeah.
for real. So basically, it was after that festival, and I was kind of left on the point. She was just like, "Well, we had a nice time, but you know, we've got these other guys now, so see how we do." And I'm there thinking like, and I get back to Bristol, and then the kind of the afterglow wears off, and I was thinking, fuck, like I might have blown this. And this was the outpouring of that feeling.
Wow. So unrequited love in some ways, or like the kind of like the lust for someone or the want for something that you had. And I just feel like, I don't know where I've gotten this, but in my head, like I find it really hard to, this is actually really probably toxic.
It's all toxic.
It's all toxic. No, I find
the toxic, like, you know, that's where it all comes from. And
Yeah.
you got to accept that. You got to be like, look, if you don't accept it's toxic, you won't get over it.
Yeah.
But
But
no,
I find
sorry.
it hard to see men as vulnerable within relationships, like to see that they would feel like, because often it's always like the other person that got away, and I've always seen like the man be triumphant, I don't care, but to like hear it from the other side, and like to hear the man be like, you know, or like to be like, yeah, I really wanted this, you know, and I feel like I want this to happen, and like it's so nice to hear.
Sure, but let's not be like, oh, isn't he sweet attitude. Like, I was a prick.
Okay.
Like I didn't do anything
So
major.
take the
about it.
rose-tinted glasses
Yeah,
off.
take them off. Like, let's be real. Like, you know, and I since we're really happy now. I've been in a relationship 2 years. But and going strong. But it's like, yeah, she gave me plenty of time to remind me of that, and the fact that I had to prove to her, like, look, if we're going to do this again, I haven't stopped thinking about you, but
Yeah.
you're going to have to prove this to me.
Yeah.
So, you know, there is the gender role in this situation, in a heteronormative cisgender relationship. There is definitely that play. There is definitely that thing, and it is very much this kind of, you know, that kind of play. You have to be aware of that. 100%.
Let's read the lyrics. So, your ex is beautiful. Yeah, she's one of a kind. Maybe the best thing that happened to me. Maybe my mother was right. So loud the light and sound is glue, silently gluing you to me and me to you, swaying close in the olive grove. That's when I knew it was Croatia. The olive grove. I was like, there's only like, yeah, that I was like, that's definitely Croatia. So there's a stage area called the Olive Grove. So yeah, multiple festivals happen there all around the year. But yeah, that was a giveaway.
Well done.
Swaying like we don't already know, swaying like we're all alone. It's so poetic.
I mean, it's all real. So it was easy.
Yeah, but even capturing the club parts, so the lights, the sound, the idea of dancing with someone. Like, I always feel like people never get it right. You know, like when you watch a film and there's a club scene,
Yeah,
it's always dead, isn't it? Like, you're
so
like, that's
dead.
not what it's like.
Yeah. The music's really quiet, and you can just hear people just having a nice, easy conversation.
Yeah, and or the dancing's too much, or too little. Yeah, it just.
I think about that all the time.
You got it right in this. Like, when you're trying to, like, you know, like in terms of like the writing style to tell this story of like this moment on the dance floor, can you kind of let me in on that process of?
Totally, yeah. I mean, I really appreciate that, by the way, like for you to kind of listen to it in that respect. I don't know anyone else has done that, so thank you. But we were dancing together, a couple next to us were kind of eyeing us up, this cute queer couple, and the pair of them were just like, so what's going on between you two then? Because we just met each other, you know, the couples together, and kind of Holly and I guiltily look at each other as you would, and Holly goes, I'm his ex. And the line before, if you can't quite hear it, but it goes like kind of sound of stuff. And then, did you hear what had they just said? And I respond, and she responds, what? And then the song starts.
Right.
So it's kind of setting that cue and setting the kind of frame for the scene. But the whole thing was just like you said. There is this kind of, when you say films get it wrong, it's because when you regardless of how you get there, that level of transcendence when you're on a dance floor, it's what gets you into raving. It's what makes you a rave, you know? And it's that feeling where you know, when you're there and you're just like, oh, this is so special. So to have that on your ones is one thing, but to have that conjoined with someone in this weird emotional thing you're kind of guilty about but desperate about as well, dancing with you. And I know I mentioned she glowed up, but she glowed up, and like you're there going, holy shit, you're so hot. And
It's a hot moment.
Yeah, this is a hot moment. So you don't want, you know, because it feels delicate. It feels like it could break at any moment. And it was kind of there and then where it was like, yeah, this is such a deciding feeling, and I know you feel it too, sort of thing, you know.
Yeah, I guess it's like a profound moment. So then, like, in terms of like, when was that moment like that you're like, I need to write about this. I need to take this snapshot of what happened on over this period, this beach festival holiday, and turn it into a song.
Because I was hurting back at my studio. Yeah. It was like when I was back in Bristol, and it was just thinking, just like, have I blown this? Have I ruined it? You know, it's like it says later on, just like, I'm selfishly 10 years too late or something like that. I can't remember what it is. But it's 10 months. 10 months. Thank you. Thank you. I'm like, we're going to that bit. Sorry. I don't want to get ahead of myself. It's So it was very much just a case of just being like, I need to kind of this cathartic moment. If I frame this, I mean, there was this kind of level, like there's this slight side story as well, which there's this slight toxicity in how I used the songs to express myself to Holly, even when we weren't seeing each other. So there were these songs that I'd write, and I was incredibly naive in my awareness of the power of these lyrics. I'd finish songs, not this one in particular, but some earlier ones. And I'd send them to Holly without much context, even though we kind of weren't seeing each other. And this was a time when my emotions were very confusing and hard to read, and I was trying my best. I hadn't done anything really bad. I'd just been a bit of an avoidant prick and not very responsible. And that lack of responsibility, like, worsened massively by me sharing these songs with her, going, "Oh yeah, I made this. It's kind of about you," and then she'll listen to it and, like, you know, see this like intense mirror, you know, that's like reflecting on these things I've said about her. And it's only when she was like, "Larry, stop doing this. This is so
stop sending me music."
Yeah, it's so messed up. So like this was the last one I had to write. It was just like this. I'm not going to show this to Holly unless she does give me another chance.
Wow. So it's almost like your own ultimatum.
Essentially,
yourself.
yeah, essentially.
And this is the kind of moment, like, I don't know, like, I'm sure a lot of people that have been together and it not worked out in a moment, but you know that reason, season, lifetime, what's for you won't pass you. If it might come back, people would have like kind of dreamt about this moment of seeing an ex again, which is what you actually lived out. So had you before that preempted what you would do, say, in that moment?
I had no idea. No, not at all. I mean, it's all very easy talking about these lyrics in foresight because, you know, because I'd taken a moment to create something from the situation, but I don't want to even pretend that I have the intelligence or foresight to be able to predict these moments, especially when you have no idea how they're going to go, what you're going to do, like what you're going to, like, there's so many, especially at that time as well. So like when, you know, it's exciting. I find it interesting when artists get asked this sort of stuff, just like, how did you predict it? How, you know, clearly, because it makes it feel like the way you wrote about it, you know, you understood the whole thing, like you really got it. But it's only in hindsight, you know. Yeah. It's only in hindsight you're able to get to these things, and then even then you get to curate and pick and how it's to be expressed. The way our memories work.
Yeah, and what you may remember might not be. Yeah. You know, maybe if you could have sent it to her, but then it might not have been what she remembered in totally, that moment.
Totally.
You spoke in previous interviews about, you know, going to therapy, and you spoke about, you know, obviously previously the relationship when you were there, you know, getting to a better place, and you both growing up in the way you look, but also in how you are as well. Do you think therapy changed the way you were able to process what happened and then write about it?
There's a certain humility that kind of comes with that self-awareness. For sure. It's hard to say, you know, like, once again, if I look back into pinpoint to a certain time in my life and think about how I would have acted differently if I hadn't been to therapy, you can see a huge disparity. But like, if it comes to when it comes to creative process, like, a lot of it just comes down to just getting better at honing your craft and being better at picking out the right words, you know? Like, if you're sitting, you know, I honestly believe anyone can do this, and I feel like poetry is a great way into not only just finding music in your music to your life, if that makes sense, but you can also it's just so good for therapy. It's so good for like writing your thoughts down. I don't get down that well with journaling personally. I find myself I get distracted and write about something completely different, which is kind of good apparently. But no, writing, when you apply to something particularly you want to get feelings out about, and you're trying to find music to your things, you know, you can really find music to your life. You can really find such an outpouring of emotion in that respect. It's really
in writing the art of writing poetry.
Yeah, fully. And it's like, and don't think that it's some sort of like thing that's like, you know, to be or not to be. You know, you don't have to be some like big fluffy wearing like old you know, Shakespearean. Like it's literally, you know, there's plenty of people out there that are proving that poetry's for everyone.
There's a writer that you read, Richard Sicken, and I read some of the work from Crush, and it's this kind of like, it's this, I guess, sensual work about sexuality, sensuality, feelings, romance. Yeah, so how did you come across Richard Sicken?
I got gifted the book by someone I was dating. There's actually a song about them in the it's the lines from that book in Flakes, the track from my album. Yeah. And
what was it about? Like, you get gifted this book, but what was it about the way that Richard was writing? Because now if I read some of the Richard's work and then I look back and read, you know, this song as it's written, I can see the style.
Keeping it brief. I think I really enjoy, in all forms of expression, less is more. I think you have to be really responsible as a person, let alone as an artist in this day and age, when you're trying to express ideas or expect people to relate to you or like just give you emotional time. I think it's really important.
Because you don't get that much time.
You don't get that much time.
We were talking about the millennial pause.
Right, what's that?
So like, it stuck with me. Big up Dan who works on the podcast. He was saying like, as millennials, we basically think that we have like 30 seconds to introduce things before we get into it. But like the next generation won't give us a pause. But hey, I'm Jamz Supernova, and then they've stopped listening.
Whoa.
Like, they're done. So and I give the pause, and you're watching the podcast. They've stopped. They've switched off. They haven't. You've got to get straight to it.
Pig.
Yeah. So you haven't got the time. People don't give you the time to
They don't, but
waft.
there are ways that you can demand that time.
Yeah.
And there are ways that you can be, if you're selective enough with your words from the beginning, or you demand space in a very like kind of not a selfish way, but just in like an assured way, an assertive way. You can allow people to go, ooh, and they listen. Yeah. So there's certain elements of that which I really like, bringing that into poetry as well. I think it's you don't want to be verbose, you don't want to be using big words. Like you kind of want to be using straight to the point stuff, because that's what pop's built on. That's what the good stuff's built on, you know.
Look at you now, how you've blossomed, darling, glowed up and found your voice. Love this bit. September sun setting on us, pomegranate thieves, the fool I feel to be so blind and so mean. You said pop, and I always like hesitate when I describe someone's work as pop, because like it's it always sounds like a dirty word when it's not, and I wonder why do we feel that? Because I was like, these are pop songs, deconstructed pop songs.
Sure. I think that's something that it's total zeitgeist based. Like it depends on when you're talking about it. Right now, pop is valued. Back when I was growing up, I mean, I'm 32, I'm good with similar age.
Yeah, 33, yeah.
So it's like, you know, when we were growing up and you get all the really cool music that was breaking free from pop, you know, all the amazing R&B and hip hop stuff, all the punk stuff, well not punk, but like grunge and all that rock stuff. It was all like, you know, it all stood on its own feet and had this identity that stood away from pops and made pop feel like just like, well, that's what people who don't have an attitude listen to, you know. Whereas now we've kind of got through the dance music overtaking, and it's kind of changing things. And I think people are leaning into pop because you look at like what all the stuff that Danielle Hull was doing and Sophie and Charlie XCX and like that kind of hyper pop stuff. But I think there's a nice in between people trying to find something to connect to, some kind of like modern storytelling of sorts, but also something that gives them some identity, and pop kind of carries a bit of identity to it these days.
And whilst having fun, I guess, not taking yourself too seriously. And it's weird because all that sort of like R&B and hip hop and some of the grunge stuff that we were listening to that was not pop is now pop. That stuff is pop. It's popular. It's become pop.
Yeah, for real.
It's popular music.
Absolutely.
Essentially. I want to get back to some of the writing process. And like writing dance music to writing a record like this, what have been the key differences, and how did you kind of develop the process?
Mate, it was so hard. It was crazy. I just assumed, because there was actually a couple of times when I was trying to make a couple of vocalists I really liked. This is before like 2017, 2018, and vocalists would be like, yeah, I'd love to work with you. I was like, well, that's well exciting, and I just send them some beats over and they're like, no, that's not it. And I was just like, what do you mean? It's great, it's banger. It's like, you know, and then slowly realised that no, there's actually so many differences between dance music and singing music, which is I find confusing, because I've grown up a lot on like, you know, funky house and grime and all that stuff that has so many similarities with the music I make, but there's so many particular things you need to point out, which are, I mean, I'm not going to, it would take too long for me to go through it, and I don't think I've really worked it out properly yet, but I think it was just a case of finding stuff that honestly carried the music. And for me, like I mentioned before about the kind of setting the frame, like that was kind of the main thing I focused on. It's about focusing on what aesthetic sound or what sound this feels like and how it marries or fights with the lyrics and the vocal line and how that kind of sits. And I've been very, very moved to hear people relate to that kind of world thing, because that's kind of really what it's all about. And I think anyone can do it in that respect. You don't have to have the technical ability or the experience. Like, you just need to be able to have sounds that relate to you or relate to what you're doing. So over time, I just got better at like kind of chipping away at that, and understanding how they sit better together, you know.
And like creating like a soundscape kind of around the words.
Exactly, yeah.
Because I felt like some of the lines are quite short, but then they feel like they're punctuated by the production, and there might be a sort of moment or a feeling, like almost like a full stop, or a moment to pause, or a moment to kind of reflect on the lines. You got it. So in that respect, then, so did you write the words first and then music around it? I can't
remember with this one. I think it was probably, I had the main intro beat to start first, and there's got lots of space in that, so that one was relatively easy to put the words to. But it's like, it is a different, but it's got a weird melody line, doesn't it?
No chorus.
It has to make sense.
Yeah. For this, the chorus didn't make sense. It just didn't happen. Yeah.
And it's one of these ones where I it's all about telling the story, and if it feels like a sense of repetition adds to it, builds to it. It's like thinking like, I don't know, like some sort of movie scene where like somebody starts singing in the cafe, and then by the second time the chorus is singing along, everyone's singing along. You know, like that. There's a narrative that adds to that repetition. But no, I think probably it was a mix of the two. But sometimes lyrics start first, sometimes music starts first. Like, all completely depends on how if I'm sitting in the studio and how I get from A to B.
And like the sensuality of the song as well, kind of, we've spoke about the sort of feeling of it, but is it easy to write a sexy song? Or has it been easy for you?
I don't know. Like, you could, I'll tell you what, it's easy to write a bad sexy song. Okay. That's what it's easy to do. Like, I don't know about getting there, if you have the emotions, and if the emotions are genuine and you have somewhere to put them. Like, once again, Flakes being another song on the album, that is a very sexy song. Well, I don't know, people have told me they think it is. But it comes from a place of, like, kind of delicate lust. And I'm Your Ex is sexy, but it's more of like a blues, just sort of way, which is maybe not so sexy. But, like, it depends. So it's the classic situation of, like, Adele, where, she was emotionally stable but publicly said she struggled to write music. And I don't believe that's because she can only write songs about love. I think that's because if you're able to give in to an idea and with your full, like, your body and your emotions, then you can amaze yourself in what you're able to fulfill artistically and emotionally. And I think if sexiness is something that is kind of holding you, then personally I feel there's no reason why you can't do that. You just got to make sure you check yourself and go through it and go, is that sexy, or am I just need to sort myself out,
Yeah, and I guess also, but like it's the idea of being comfortable enough to be your most revealing self in that. And I think that's what, as a non-songwriter or non-artist, to be honest, in that way, we take for granted. When you start to really sort of go through the layers of what it would have taken for someone to be that authentic, I think you probably only really get that in the art on the other side.
Maybe. I don't know. I think the whole title of artist is something that you can't really assign yourself. Like, it's something that people give, other people give you. And you don't, like, if ever people ask, I say that I'm a musician. I work with music. Like, I find it weird to call myself an artist, and that used to be down to a what's the word? Used to be down to like a shyness, I guess, and a lack of self confidence. But now I genuinely feel it's because I don't believe that it's fair to distance yourself from something that anyone can do.
That's nice.
Like, I think when I was performing, I used to, I think most shows I'd bring up the fact that people saying, wow, you're singing now, what's that like? And I was like, well, it's pretty cool, but you can do it too. Like, anyone can sing. And going back to the karaoke thing, like, it is so fulfilling to be able to let yourself go. And the best times for that, in most people's cases, are in the shower or in the car. you know? And I've had some of my best, or for me, sometimes when it's cycling, like I've had my best musical, like I've hit my best notes, like in the car, you know what I mean? Like it's sometimes you're able to, when you're like, it is when you're able to give yourself entirely to it. And anyone can do that. And anyone who says they can't sing, it's a lot of rubbish. Like you might not be able to hit the notes, but if you're singing, you're singing.
Yeah. You just made me think of a memory of actually riding a bike. It was like I'd been do some bike riding in Cuba, and we'd gone too far, and we had to like ride back. And my friend's a really good cyclist, so she was like really far ahead. My other friend's not a great cyclist; she was really far behind, and I'm like mid. So I'm in the middle, and we were just following the moon. And I was playing Childish Gambino, "Awaken My Love" on the phone.
Love.
And I just was like singing, along, like, and it just literally, it was like a 5 mile ride. I think 5 miles. Felt long anyway. I don't know. We got back and like our host family was like, "Where have you been? I was going to call the police."
I was having a great time.
Yeah. But there was like this transcendent feeling. I was on my own pretty much, in between my two friends, but there was enough distance between us that we couldn't catch each other. But like in that moment, the singing, listening to the music with the moon, I was just like, I can do this. I can get there.
See you at Wembley, mate.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to do BBs on your next. For
real, let's do it. Yeah.
What artists do you feel like really give themselves then in the writing process? Like in terms of like the songs that you hear, you're like, wow, I appreciate you for being so open.
Yeah. Openness is a funny one, like, because you can be open with yourself, but like how that translates is kind of a bit of a balance, because you can. If you're entirely open, that can work sometimes. But a lot of people will find it a bit too much. For me, people are really good at doing just the right amount of openness. Kate Tempest, they're incredible. Like in the way that they talk about, especially like, I mean, I love the political stuff, but like the emotional, personal stuff, it's like unreal. Yeah. And Frank Ocean's a good one, mostly because of how he has a huge community of people dissecting the lyrics, and you can go through Genius and going, no way, yeah. Me too. But like, not that I know most of the references, but I'll go through and just enjoy it so much. So like the way that he sings about stuff, he's also someone that's like, his voice is just, the way he's able to move through stuff is just, that's part of the story itself,
Yes.
The other two that most come to mind, I guess, Sun Kil Moon, Mark Kozak, not a great guy, but his album Benji, before he started doing his kind of, where he just started becoming very outspoken and saying not very nice stuff. The album Benji is amazing. The first track's called Clarissa, and it opens with his account of wanting to go visit the funeral of his recently passed second cousin, Clarissa, and he talks about the horrible way that like she died, and the fact that the same death had happened to another member of the family. And it's so explicit, but like he says it in this kind of like Midwest drawl, American drawl, and it's always like like really like kind of playing guitar, so the world is there, and the album covers this like blurring of driving past this golden cornfield, and it's just like you just feel it in it. And that album for me happened just before COVID and was in COVID, and like times like that when it's just like you literally feel like you're sitting on Mark Kozak's lap as he's playing you this song on his guitar.
You're in his world.
In his world, moment, much so. And there's an openness to that which is so overbearing at times. He talks about everything between like mass shootings and serial killers, but also like his relationship with his mum and his dad, like really like powerful stuff. So there's a range of that kind of openness in which you can relate to it. I think a lot of people probably find Sun Kil Moon a little bit too like, I'm an old guy singing about my problems. Like, but it's, but it depends, different people leaning into different things.
Yeah. I think country music, folk music kind of has that, like, that, it allows a space for that level of like, vulnerability. Absolutely. And kind of, to really, to pour yourself into it. I want to thank you for Lee Hazelwood.
Oh, mate.
My Autumn's Done Come.
Oh, mate.
I've never, ever come across that song if I hadn't done my like research into you.
I'm so glad.
It's such a beautiful song. Beautiful. When did you first hear it?
In a pub in Brighton.
Did you Shazam it?
No, I went to ask the DJ.
Yeah. They played it. The DJ played it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was just one of these like Brighton pub Sunday after a gig I'd had. I was with the guy who booked me. He was working a shift at the bar, and somebody I'd happened to meet on the plane 2 weekends before flying back from America, and we were just hanging out in this pub, and it was quite cute for her. She's a set designer in LA, and then it was just a real funny mix of three people as well. So we had a cute
and a Sunday drinking session.
Sunday drink, yeah.
You're holding on to the weekend,
literally. And this DJ in the corner just kind of is like, bless him, lonely looking guy playing all this beautiful music, and there was no one else in there, and I just had to go and ask, what the frick was that song? Like, that was stunning, and I've ever since been obsessed with Lee Hazelwood. Yeah, I should have mentioned him before as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. Lee Hazelwood, My Autumn's Done Come. I'm going to jump into another section of the lyrics. So finally I see what we could be. I don't want to blow it. Selfishly romantic because 10 months I'm too late. Because I'm 10 months late, sorry. It's really hard reading it to people. Yeah. I guess it's my turn to be crushed on you like gold dust. So next time I see you in the dance, I'll try my best to hold my tongue for once. I love reading it as it is, almost like taking the music away from it. And like I said, I think it could sit on its own in a book of poetry. What's been the reaction to the song and its vulnerability, like when you play it, when you perform it, when you show people it?
First and foremost, this is quite surreal, by the way.
me reading
these words to me, it's just like, I feel like a room 101, just like. I really appreciate that. Thank you. It's hard. Like, it's tricky. I think it's very different experience in regards to writing the music, digitally released, Spotify, streaming and all that, and then actually singing it in person. I've been very fortunate to have quite an overwhelmingly positive response from the live performances. This song is particularly hard to sing because there's very little rhythm in it. I don't have a backing track, so it's like a click track rather. So I just have to know the song exactly where the key points are. I'm still learning to be I want to be really good in regards to being a popular like a singer on stage, but damn, it takes so much
takes experience.
It's mad experience.
You have to keep on performing.
Yeah, keep on top of it. Like, there's various things I can and can't do, and I've got to be very careful around it. So but the general response of it has been great. I think, because there's such silence in it, there's, especially before that moment, usually by that point in the set, people have shut up. I've actually only once in a live performance had to tell people to shut up, which I'm quite grateful for. Except for Glastonbury, where all I could hear was level stage. So I was at wow. So literally the whole time it was torture. Yeah. But still a lovely experience, and made people cry. And people came up to me the following day, just like, "Oh, you're that guy that sung this week was this made our festival." And it's just like, wow, that's like amazing. But you can't. That's so hyper specific to that time, and it's really important to compartmentalize those personal experiences with the ones of what you get through social media and all this sort of stuff. Like, it's not. Like, one is fleeting and amazing, and one is constant and kind of cruel. So social media is not your friend, and I think I think it hasn't. Well, I don't know.
I guess it distorts it. Social
media distorts
is like
entirely.
Instant gratification, isn't it?
And it's so important to this album's just so freaking personal. Yeah. It's like so intensely an extension of myself, which is so dangerous given it's my first singing record doing this brand new thing. And a lot of people, like, I've had some friends, close friends to me, who've gone, wow, thank you, like, really appreciate it, and it means the world to me. And like someone like yourself, like, this is a really big deal, like having this situation. And then other times I just feel like no one listens to it, and I can't tell whether that's just down to me being in my own head with something new, or like, and how much self-importance I should be applying to that. Like, it's like, get over yourself, everyone's trying to make music, which is something I have to remind myself for. But it's the proximity is unhealthy.
Yeah, because you're in it, and you're still, and what you're talking about, you're living it. You're in this relation. You're in a relationship.
Oh yeah. No, and it's only just got to the point where Holly and I are like really sound with all the shit I wrote about her.
So it's like, just we're going to perform this song about Wigan now, but
literally, especially given there's one song on the album that she thought was about her and it wasn't, and that was bad.
Really awkward.
That was
yeah.
bad.
But
yeah.
you know, that's life.
That is life.
It's your life.
Yeah. We've got over it.
I thought it was really interesting that after this song, there's this another song that is this voice note about being in an open relationship. Because a lot of when I was listening to the album, I was trying to work out perspective and whose perspective the album was coming from. And I wasn't sure if this was someone telling you that they had to check their ego to be in an open relationship, or was it you? Is that you on the voice note?
No, it's someone else.
Someone else is talking to you about being, I just thought, so coming off the back of I'm His Ex, and this is this song about kind of, you know, chasing a love that had once been and trying to get that person
Smaller
back.
things.
And then another song, kind of, the song that follows it. I just wondered how important the sequencing was in this story of the album.
This album was made track to track. There was very little what I had. I mean, I had no idea. When I started writing, I think the first song I wrote was Lasso, and then, or maybe In the Pines, one of those two, and then it just kind of built, and there was just more to sing about with this story. Smaller Things came about from a friend sending me a voice note in the middle of, maybe not middle of lockdown, kind of lockdownish time. So it was like very much a time for long voice notes, just like, what is my life? And as soon as he sent it to me, it was just like, wow, that is so exactly how I felt like about 4 months ago when there were various tracks happening. I was in an open relationship with this person, and the person, my now girlfriend, and it was that was the issue I was having. I was trying to embrace this less committal attitude to dating so that I could didn't require so much emotional presence. And I'm not going to talk about open relationships in generally my experience, because I think it's important that everybody chooses to experience these things themselves and learn that way.
And their boundaries and their things within it, yeah.
But boundaries, that is the big word. In my experience, it's incredibly hard to trust people with their boundaries, because when love's involved, people say one thing and 1 week later they do something completely different. And that is something that I experienced a little bit. And I think hearing that person in the voice note talk to me about their experiences was like, damn, like you've put this so well, especially given it the end of it finishes with there's all this other stuff happens in life, because I blurred out loads of details that are basically allude to, because they obviously want to stay anonymous, yeah. And yeah, no, it's when you go through it all and then you experience beauty in life and you go, actually, is it all that bad? Like, yeah, okay, you might not get the person, the girl, the boy, but there's more out there, and I think, than just worrying about this stuff. And I think it was just such a gift, the fact that they sent their voice note. Yeah. They were a bit unsure about me releasing it, but I'm very glad they let me in the end.
A great moment for art, I think, to have that kind of open conversation about open relationships. Because I feel like, I don't know about, we're similar age, but I know that like the generation below me, they're doing this, like they're just living, like they're not overthinking it as much. Like I had a friend and we went to the pub and she was just like basically but just like threw it out there, maybe like I'm a prude or something, she's like, yeah, I was at this kink party. I was like, what's the kink party? And she and then she just really Nando's, and I was just like, imagine like the chicken's just like I was like, wow, I'm learning new things from you, my friend. But I feel like there's definitely like generational shifts between talking about this and how, but on one hand it's like it's moving really fast how we are approaching relationships, what we're monogamy, polyamory, that sort of thing, but then kind of we're still catching up emotionally.
It comes down to the verbiage of it all, doesn't it? We've all been doing this since day dot. There's multiple people that have been seeing multiple people at once. It's about how much emotional responsibility you're willing to put in there and how much you're willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
I honestly don't believe that you can trust most people to be, just because they know what to say doesn't mean they mean it, Anyway, I didn't say I wasn't going to get into it.
I like,
I wasn't going to get into it.
On that line.
Maybe I got stuck, maybe the other people.
No, I think it's really cool. But this is a really fantastic body of work. And you said about, on one hand it's like people listening, on the other hand, people listening. And I think it's one of those pieces of work that people will come back to, You'll be that artist in, you know, I don't know, a few decades or whatever, that people, these are the kind of bodies of work that people are going to study.
I hope so,
And they're
mate.
going to be like,
Appreciate
it's been
that.
so stretched and deconstructed and tried different things but it'll be a pop album, you know. It'll be like, yeah,
appreciate that.
we don't remember the conventional things, you know. In 20 years, you don't remember the conventional things, the things that come through as that Lee Hazelwood song in the
Yeah.
pub in that moment, playing it however many years later.
Gangnam Style still bangs though.
Gangnam Style. I mean, context.
I'm sorry.
Context.
I'm sorry. I struggle to take praise sometimes, so forgive me for throwing that up.
My last question, well, I've got two last questions, but in previous interviews you mentioned, you know, having ADHD, and I don't know if
Not diagnosed though, so it's a tricky
undiagnosed
one.
ADHD.
Yeah, undiagnosed, or just generally on the spectrum pretty solidly.
And I just wondered what role, or if that plays a role in the way that you create.
Yeah, I have to. I'm at this point. I think it's more leaning towards autistic. You can't see from the camera, but my feet are wiggling as I talk. Like that's something that there's certain little things that I do that, and there's just certain things that I think Holly has come to recognise. My partner's come to recognise in regards to like just how I'm just difficult. But it's. You know, but then there's other ways, like the fact that I'm able to talk like this, you know, certain things would make you think, oh, maybe I'm not autistic. I should probably just get checked out. But anyway, point is that I don't want to go on medication for it. So I'm generally...
So having the awareness, but also kind of, I guess being aware to what the triggers and what or the non-triggers,
I struggle with routine, bizarrely, but I do have to have a certain checklist of things to be able to do, to be able to get my mind straight. So lots of sleep, eating well, meditating, exercise, and... if I don't have that balance, life's just really hard. And I feel like a big baby. And it's really annoying, especially when you date someone who doesn't need any of those things and is trying to work out why you're so high maintenance. But you know, you find a balance, and creatively is kind of the same aspect of that. You know, if I get to the studio, I need to know my capabilities that day, depending on what I've got and how my mind is working. But the autism aspect, or I assume, the aspect means that if I'm in the right place and I'm in the right spot, I can just lock in for hours, and I don't need to do anything else except for eat. But like, you know, I can do like 12-hour things in the studio if I'm kind of like got that kind of autism lock, you know. So that's helpful. So it's swings and roundabouts.
Yeah. I really want to see the show and see how you take this music and play it out live. And my last question would be, what's the line to leave people with? We always think about like the one line or phrases that from the song that really feel like really poignant to you that you'd like to leave people with.
I mean, I guess the title of the album, just like, if you're not ready for love, that's okay, you know. Just be aware of it and stop hurting people. Recognize it. Get out of what you need to get out of, do some you time, and it'll get better.
And you might be ready.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bruce.
Thank you.
Not
Honestly,
Ready for
it's been such an
Love,
honour.
out right now, and the song we broke down, I'm His Ex.